Hi friends, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. Thank you for being here. Today we are going to be doing a super quick and easy chocolate chip cookie recipe. I am terrible at making chocolate chip cookies, so if I can do it, you guys can do it too. Basically foolproof. So let's just jump right into it. Alright friends, we are going to start by pulling out all of our ingredients. I will leave the full recipe down in the description so that you can look at it super easy, but we are going to be needing brown sugar, pure sugar, softened butter, vanilla, 1 egg, flour, cornstarch, salt, baking soda, and chocolate chips. Now I'm the worst at setting out my butter to soften. I always forget, so I'm going to show you a little trick. So in this case we are using 3/4 cup of softened butter. So I'm going to take my butter and I'm going to put it on a piece of parchment paper and I'm going to just divide it up into smaller little cubes so that it's a little bit easier, and you're just going to kind of spread them out along the paper. Then once you get them all spread out, you're going to fold the parchment paper over onto the butter so they're all covered, and take your rolling pin and roll over the butter just until you'll see it kind of start to spread here in the video. Once it's spreading and it's softening up, you can take it out of the parchment paper and put it into your bowl. Super easy. It does take a little bit of elbow grease, but it's way easier than having to try to melt it in the microwave and then getting it too melted or not soft enough, and it's just, I can never do it. So this is a lot easier for me. Now I just double check to make sure that it's soft enough by taking my mixer and basically mixing it together, seeing if it creams. If it doesn't cream, then it's probably not soft enough, but you can use your mixer to soften it up a little bit more. So now we have softened butter and we can finally get started. Now, if you haven't already preheated your oven, we are going to be preheating, in this case, to 350 degrees. And then we are going to be mixing our butter and our sugars. So, like I said before, we are using 3/4 cup softened butter, 1/4 cup pure sugar, and 3/4 cups of brown sugar. And we are going to be mixing those together until they are nice and creamy. Our next step is to add our egg and our vanilla and mix until combined. So we are going to be using 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and this is where things get a little tricky. So I always over mix here. So if you have a hard time keeping cookies from getting greasy and flat, here's a tip. Don't mix your egg very much. So you'll see I'm mixing it here, but when I'm done, I can still see the yolk all over my mixture. So it is not mixed in completely, just until it's combined. Now we are slowly going to be adding in our flour, our cornstarch, those dry ingredients. So I start with my cornstarch and my salt and baking soda because I'm not using a ton of those ingredients, so it's easy to mix in. So we're using 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 2 teaspoons of baking soda. Then before I start mixing, I'm going to add in only 1/2 cup of flour. In this recipe, we use 2 whole cups, but to make it a little bit easier to mix and to make sure everything gets combined well, I only add in 1/2 cup. Then you'll see I'm done with that 1/2 cup, so I'm going to put in 1 whole cup, and then once that's mixed together, I will add my final 1/2 cup. Now here's another tip. If you want your cookies to be a little fluffier, then you can add in an extra tablespoon of flour. If you do this, then when you mix it together, it's not going to cream together like cookie dough normally would, which is okay. When you add your chocolate chips in, you can kind of cream it together a little bit more. But if you decide not to add that extra tablespoon, then your mixture will cream together. It'll look sort of like when you mixed your butter and sugars in the beginning. for the fun part that everybody loves, adding in the chocolate chips. In this case, I only use half of a bag, and now I'm starting to cream it together a little bit more with my spatula. It's a little easier at this point to do so. Now I'm going to be putting them onto my pan. You don't need to grease your pan in this case, but you can if you want to. It's not going to hurt anything. Once again, my oven is preheated to 350 degrees, and because I did add in that extra tablespoon of flour, I can fit an extra row of cookies on the pan because they're not going to be spreading out as much. However, if you did not add that extra tablespoon, I would do one less row that I'm showing here. And now we let them bake for 8 to 10 minutes. They don't take very long, which is super nice. This recipe makes about 3 dozen regular sized cookies. As you can see, I was using one of those cookie dough scoopers, so if you are making about that size of cookie, you'll get about 3 dozen. If you make them a little bit bigger, obviously you'll get maybe 2 dozen, give or take. So here's the final result. They are super fluffy, yummy, they're so good, and the fact that I can make them without screwing them up is even better because I am terrible at baking. So if you need an easy cookie recipe, check the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching.